God!
Every day for weeks and weeks and weeks. And how many can we... And, of course, the point about the Rwanda policy is the deterrent. If they do get flights up, does it then stop the boats coming in? Do they then think, right, we'll go to Ireland? But that will be the test. So, I mean, I hope it works, because they've got to do something, because we cannot sustain 1.2 million people coming in every year, because that's the gross figure. As Ben Rabid rightly pointed out, 400,000 are leaving, but there often are young, bright things who are going off to be doctors and teachers abroad, which is very sad.
OK, let's think about this a little more, in a little more depth. Human rights lawyer Dr Shoiab Khan joins us now. Shoiab, good morning. When you're listening to this debate, are you seeing this is going to be a solution? That the process occurring in Rwanda at the moment, this treaty being signed, is going to lead to planes taking off, which is going to lead to it being a deterrent. Do you think that's going to work?
Hi, no, I don't. I mean, obviously, even within that, brief question, there's quite a few things. Firstly, is Rwanda generally, the plan a deterrent? Secondly, will what James Cleverly's up to today work? Thirdly, will it get through the Commons? Will it actually make any difference? Fourthly, will it lead to any planes in the air? So those are all completely, I think there are just so many hurdles and obstacles and problems, legal and practical, with each of those steps. I just don't think it's going to happen. But particularly in terms of what he's doing today, and, as your political correspondent there was explaining, on the one hand, we want to sign a new international treaty because we believe in international law. And obviously, once Rwanda signs that, then, there's no way they'll back out. And then in the same sentence, we're saying we want to pull out or exclude somehow or limit the effect of the ECHR, which is an international treaty we've been signed up to for decades. And obviously, this is the Tory government, who proudly boast about, we're just breaching international law in a specific limited way. So what if we today sign this deal with Rwanda, where they promise we won't send these people back, and then they decide to breach that in a limited, specific way? Oh, we'll just send Afghans back, or we'll just send Libyans back, we'll just send Syrian people back. So that's exactly the point, and that's what we say. And I'm guessing that's probably Victoria Prentice's point as well, where we just said, she's on resignation watch. As a lawyer, she understands the importance of upholding international law for everyone, whether you like that specific law or not. And I think that's the issue. The Supreme Court, going through all the evidence over the past decades, found Rwanda was not a safe country for these people. And now suddenly, we've got this magic wand of emergency legislation, and we will hereby declare Rwanda to be safe. Personally, I think that's a really childish, ridiculous thing to say. Why do we work so hard on everything else? Why don't we just pass emergency legislation? The NHS is now hereby, declared perfect. No one has any problems. Everyone is a millionaire in the UK. The UK is hereby declared the best country in the world. Because, you actually have to do things to make things better. You can't just declare them safe, even if Parliament declares it. And so I think there are lots of legal issues with this plan.
Yeah, but Shoiab, isn't one of the problems people like you, the great human rights lawyers industry, which blocks every attempt by the government to deport people to countries because they don't always believe they're genuine? And we talk quite regularly on this programme to one of your colleagues, David Hay, who's a human rights lawyer, and he says only 20% of the people he sees he thinks are genuine cases. So that means 80% are fraudulent, and human rights lawyers like you are supporting them.
I mean, obviously, I don't recognise those figures at all.
Well, he does. Fact, he's been doing it for a very long time.
Of course. So even under, Theresa May, Priti Patel, Sweta Braverman, James Cleverly now, obviously, not particularly lefty loonies, 60, 70, 80% of applicants are granted asylum. And so why are they granting asylum if these are all bogus claims? So, I mean, and even then, even when they claim those, even the ones that are refused, when they go to court, more than half of those, the courts then overturn because they are genuine asylum seekers. And then even if looking at this, we're talking about a year ago when we were all saying this plan is illegal. Obviously, we're just lefty extremists, creating trouble for the Tories. But now the UK Supreme Court has said that. Is that the same thing?
If they're genuine asylum seekers, why are they paying money to cross the channel?
Because there's no other way of them to get here. Ukrainians didn't have to. Afghans did on that 2 flights we sent didn't have to. Because we sent planes and brought them here like humans.
Well, why are so many of them? Why are so many of them young men in their 20s and 30s?
Because we don't want babies and children.
Because they're economic migrants, Sarah. That's why.
Babies come here, babies
they're economic migrants.
Shores. We don't. Sorry.
They're economic migrants. That's why.
No, they're not. I mean,
yes, they are.
How do we know?
Well, how do you know they're not?
Obviously.
They chuck their papers over the side of the boats.
Yes, because then why are 60 to 70, 80% of them granted asylum in the very, very strict asylum system we have right now? Shoiab Khan, Priti Patel, Theresa May, established this asylum system. 60, 70% of people the Home Office believes are genuine. So I just don't understand that. And you're asking, why do they come here? That's why there are no safe legal routes. How are these people? Why did Ukrainians have to do that? Because we sent planes there and brought them here. In Afghanistan even, we actually literally prioritized bringing dogs over people. We saw people hanging off planes. Were they economic migrants too? What do we do about that? And that's the point. Palestine, we know already will create refugees. Syria, Libya, so many other countries. Where are the flights bringing people? Are we saying no one there, not a single person, is a genuine asylum seeker?
So Shoiab, would you be in?
Come over on boats.
Would you be in support of there being some sort of online application system from any country in the world whereby you can lodge your application, you're not having to get on a boat, it can be assessed in the UK, and then you're either told yes or no?
Of course, such an absolute dream. That's
and
what
why
we've been
does that
calling
not
on for
exist?
decades. Because we don't want that. This is what we like. This is what the Tories like. This is the way going to win an election. What else are they winning, even fighting this next election on, other than Rwanda? That's the one point that everyone's talking about.
But they're losing that
fight.
But that's not working. The logic of that doesn't stack up, because this issue is high on the list of everybody's priorities. And if they could implement an online application system which would stop the boats overnight, that would be great for the Conservatives. Why aren't they doing it?
Because if Theresa May had sorted it out, how would Shoiab Khan ever have become Home Secretary? How would she ever be in the race to... I mean, I think that's quite an obvious thing. Why I don't understand how people don't understand that. I mean, that is what's happening. This is the one issue. What else? Why are we not talking about the NHS, the, homeless veterans, our homeless, British people on the streets right now? Because this is what people are talking about. This is what will win the election. This is what the Tories want. They don't want us focusing on those things. If they had resolved this, why aren't we talking about Ukrainian asylum seekers? We brought in and integrated hundreds of thousands of them. And that's been absolutely fantastic, literally within our homes. Why is that not an issue? Because
I can't believe that's true.
And the NHS.
But I find it hard to believe. I think what you've just said is the British government do not want an online application system which would prevent dinghies taking off, because it helps them with their political strategy and their Machiavellian moves to put people in certain positions. That just seems incredibly implausible.
Oh, well, it's very plausible if you look at what's happened. I mean, I don't know. Do you really think that's, even yourself in the position you're in, understanding that? Do you think that's implausible? I mean, OK, what are the top three things right now the British people will, even right now we were talking about, whether the flight takes off in May or June. What's happening in May? Why is May an important month? Because of the election. What's that got to do with Rwanda? What's that got to do with the treaty? What's that got to do with illegal immigrants?
So you mean whilst we're talking about this, we're not talking about those other issues that might reflect badly on the Conservatives?
But Shoiab, you're missing the point.
This
you're missing the point. The Tories are getting a hammering because they're not getting to grips with immigration, because they're being outmanoeuvred by the great human rights industry lobby, which you're part of.
Well, you just suggested a solution which is perfectly plausible and practical, and I support that. That's what we're actually calling for. We've been suggesting that for years. Why can't British embassies around the world take in asylum applications, process them, and there are flights for people who are successful?
But is that because, Shoiab, sorry to interrupt you, but I really do want to hear your expertise on this. Is that because the numbers would increase because there would be so many millions of people with legitimate claims to come from war-torn countries that the government legally would not be able to say no?
I don't know would the numbers increase? We've seen so many. And secondly, the whole point is, but it would answer all our questions on why are these all young men? Because young men can make this thousands of miles of, this sea voyage. At least that way we could bring in the women, we can bring in disabled people, we can bring in people on life support, we can bring in the children. So the point is, I just don't understand why can't we do that? I don't know about the figures. I'm not sure if they would necessarily go up. And what if everyone started doing that? Then yes, that's the point. All the countries would distribute the refugees. The point is, these are needy people. We, countries, the West, rich countries, people with food, people with money, have to help them.
And
So
it would be
why don't we?
wonderful, Shoiab, and it would be wonderful if we could take everybody that needed
No, we haven't got the
safety,
room.
but we do not have the room, we do not have the resources, we do not have the public services. I really appreciate your time, though, this morning. Thank you so much. Human rights lawyer, Dr. Shoiab Khan there.
I'm sorry, the human rights lawyers, the industry are part of the problem.
Yeah, but that's really interesting what he was saying then about the fact that there is no... I've asked this to several people in the studios, never really got a clear answer as to why we don't have that. If there was an online application system whereby you could say, I live here, this is why I have to come over there, and we could say from the safety of an office in Westminster, yes, or computer says no. And that's it, done. No boats, no numbers, we control it. If I'm missing something, let me know. gbviews@gbnews.com.
Well, because the economic markets don't want to do that, because they won't get through, so they come on the boats. Which costs thousands of pounds.
But then, if you have a system, you can say, well, I'm sorry, if you come on a boat, we literally turn you straight back.
Well,
You can never apply for asylum if you come on a boat, because we could do it on your computer.
Well, they should all be turned back, because they're coming here illegally.